each of us is often defined through perceptions and how we make each other feel. Through small actions or words, we either feel like an outsider or we feel a sense of belonging. As soon as we put anyone in a box, we stop treating them like a human being. However, we often do just that. We put people in boxes, and we stick with who and what we know. I'll let you decide which box to put me in. My father is the son of Afghani migrants to India. His father was in the British Army. His mother was at home caring for the children. When he was a small boy, his house was burnt down. This happened during partition, which formed Pakistan. What once were peaceful neighbors erupted into violence. Later, when he was an adult, armed only with passion to know more of the world, he took the brave step and immigrated to Canada, the first in his family to leave the country. There, he worked hard, whilst also going to university, and became a self-made man. Our path would lead back to Pakistan via Dubai and Oman. My mother is the daughter of two survivors of the Holocaust who fled from Poland to Canada. They met in a displaced persons camp in Europe. They both lived horrific tales of persecution. My grandmother was in Auschwitz. My grandfather hid in fields and barns, often at the mercy of Polish farmers who took what he had under threat of turning him into the Gestapo. His first wife was murdered. So were most of their families: parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. This actually overshadowed their lives and their children's as well. I spent several years growing up in Pakistan, in the beautiful city of Lahore. My mother lives in Toronto. My father passed away last year. Well, in fact, I feel he's here with me now, smiling. I today live in Barcelona. If you draw a line in the map from Toronto to Lahore, Barcelona is roughly in the midpoint. Many people are often surprised, even shocked, when they find out I have one Jewish parent, one Muslim parent. I often get asked, how did that happen? Sometimes I answer with a wink. I think we all know how it happened. Sometimes I deflect their shock and I say, well, I have a really hot mom. Or I say I have a very charming father. But then they ask me, but where did they meet? Even I once asked my father, how did you end up living in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood in the late 1960s? And he said, well, I was looking for a flat. The neighborhood was clean. There was bread that smelled good in the bakeries, and there was a nice butcher nearby. That's about it. They met. Here I am, just like all of you are here today. But there is something in the tone of those questions that always leaves me a bit unnerved. Like, is there an answer they would like to hear? Perhaps they are worldly and kind-hearted, and they will find my parents' story romantic. Or perhaps they want me to deny one side of me, whichever suits their worldview. So, who am I here in front of you all? Am I European? Am I South Asian? Am I North American? Am I Muslim? Am I Jew? People normally decide for me. I am as you choose to see me. I have faced bigotry towards Muslims, towards Jews. Once when I was a young girl, I went to visit my Jewish grandfather. And these distant relatives walked in the room. And everyone was greeting each other, everyone was talking. No one introduced me. No one spoke to me. Because if they said my name, the origin of which is Arabic, they would have to explain who was this girl with this Muslim name in the room. Another time, I was a teenager. I was in high school. I was completely submerged in Pakistani society. I was fasting during Ramzan. I was straightening my curly hair obsessively to look like everybody else. And then I got into an argument. It was a typical high school fight with some boys who had just moved there. I had a big mouth in those days, so I stood my ground and I was rude to them, but it didn't end there. Later, when I was at home, I received a call with rants and threats of, "You Jewish bitch, we're going to burn your house down." So, how did I resolve this feeling of being an outsider in other people's eyes? For me, there was no other choice than to accept both sides and to learn how each can be nurtured without denying the other. In fact, this led me to make a shift in my career and then appear at IESE to do a PhD in management. I work in the area of cultural identities and international business. And in international business, we often talk about globalization, international markets, a shared vision of people that transcends national boundaries. This reflects openness, empathy, building bridges. And we do all this while we're eating sushi, we're taking belly dancing classes after work. But all of this just doesn't sit right with me, because we are far from this vision. Rather, we live in a world which is overshadowed by warfare, brutality, and economic extremes. The current refugee crisis, for instance, illustrates just how far we are from connectedness. At times, we feel a sense of anger, of innocence dying. And other times, we feel unnerved by the horrifying fate of others. The world we live in is one where we are moving in opposite directions, in factions with opposite views, mindsets that see black or white. This paradox can be exemplified through technology. Through the internet and social media, we all know so much about each other. Yet at the same time, because of these technologies, we also have so many opinions about each other. This leads to a world of solitudes, which define themselves and everyone else in absolute terms. Are you for us or against us? East or west? Conservative or liberal? There are no gray areas. So how can we reach a meeting point in such conflicting times? I believe that the only way to surmount such differences is via the heart. The heart is where opposites can meet. In fact, I've seen how well inclusion works. In the research that I do, I study the Pakistani operations of a Norwegian telecommunications company, Telenor. And on the face of it, we would think that there could be a potential for a culture clash. Norway, Pakistan, different cultures, different ideals, differences in tone and style. Yet when I spoke with these local employees, no one spoke of what was European, what was Asian, who was Christian, who was Muslim. What mattered to them was a sense of belonging. Staff repeatedly spoke about how they felt respected, included. And these are people from all sorts of backgrounds. I saw foreigners, consultants, expatriates, mostly locals. Some of them were in traditional clothes, most of them in jeans. The only thing they said that mattered was the value that they brought to the table, not where they were from, not what they believed in. And they talked about an affinity that they had towards the management. Why? Because the CEO would ask about their sick child. The group CEO, when he visited, was dancing and playing the drums in the middle of the city at an event. For me, this organization is instructive. It's instructive of how much can be gained with inclusion when people are acknowledged for who they are. It removes distractions, leading to their full potential. This organization is not just successful in financial terms or market growth. Every year, they're one of the top organizations that's preferred in the country, a European organization. So yes, it's not easy to take into account different sides concurrently. It's not easy to manage a business. It's not easy to be a human. But is there anything else you would want to be than be human? Imagine if someone had just taken that young girl's hand into the circle of those relatives. Just one person. Imagine how 1 minute of racist abuse can take a person out of their comfort zone of belonging into a society. Just 1 minute. Small gestures do matter. What if all of us here are to take the actions to speak with people who look different, who speak differently? It's a powerful ability we each have to make another person feel connected, accepted. Imagine what a difference you can make to a person staring in from the outside if only you can see them as belonging. Only you can make them feel that they belong. Thank you so much for listening.